I am not crazy, okay? We all know this. Every time I do something, it seems like it might be unusual. Every time, I always come out with a perfectly rational explanation for it in the end. And yet, it seems like some people still continue to doubt my good intentions. Okay, so some of you probably don't know what I'm talking about. But for those of you who do, bear with me because there's a lot of very important context that I need to lay out before we can talk about the DMs. Okay, now I'm making this video in a hurry and I haven't really been playing a lot of Civ 6 recently, so the footage might be a little bit all over the place, okay? Okay. So, as you all know, Civ 6 has ruined my life. Between the backstabbing, the cheating scandals, the corruption of the CP League admins, and the constant waste of time that is desyncing and relobbying and double loading and checking for 0MS and first moving, I'm sick of it, okay? So yeah, I've been playing League of Legends again to relax. It reminds me of a better time in my life, a time before I ever even heard the name Michael. Well, obviously I knew a few people named Michael, but those of you who've been following my channel for a while know who I'm talking about when I say Michael, because there's a lot of baggage attached to that name for me. We're not here to talk about Michael or League of Legends. Civ 6. Let's start from the beginning. I used to be a much smaller YouTuber than I am now. I know, shocker, but even someone as charismatic as me wasn't born with thousands of subscribers. What got me to where I am now is that my guides for Civ 6 back in the day were meta-defining for the multiplayer Civ 6 scene. Literally, I mean that quite literally, I defined the meta for the game. Some of my videos just describe strategies that were already popular, rush feudalism, pump out a ton of builders, that sort of thing. But many of my videos actually invented the meta, sort of spoke it into existence. Free inquiry second on commercial hub civs, rushing fascism in every game, that was me. I did that. I'm responsible for the growing hype around fascism in the Civ 6 community. Me, Herson. Okay, wait, not that fascism. I didn't mean it like that, okay? I know that the Civ 6 community has a problem with the way it treats, like women and stuff. But that's not on me. I'm actually quite progressive about that sort of thing, okay? My wife, well, ex-wife now, used to let her sleep with other men. So it's like, I'm cool about that sort of thing, okay? I'm one of the good content creators. I'm like Riddick Acidic, not Civ Lifer, okay? Where was I? Oh yeah, I was a big deal. I helped to grow Civ 6 multiplayer into what it is today. I did everything right. I plugged the CP League in my videos, and I put the little link to it in the description so that all of my followers could join. And you know what? It worked! The active player base for the CP League grew so much from my videos that they had to, add new voice channels to the Discord server because they were all full. All of the voice channels they had for free-for-all games were full because there were just so many new people joining. So, you're welcome for that, Civ 6 community. And that's not all I did. When I turn off my Twitch streams, even now, I always make sure to raid someone else in the Civ 6 category. Giving back to smaller creators and stuff. So when you see all these posts online saying that Herson doesn't want to grow the Civ 6 community and Herson just wants to tear other creators down, that's not true. That's not true. I've always looked out for my fellow Civ content creators, and I have a big, big heart, and that's what's always getting me into so much trouble, I think. All right, where was I? Okay. Eventually, I was even invited to be a moderator for the CP League, and we all know how that turned out, of course. Michael. I still get comments about that. People asking if Michael's still an admin for the CP League. For people like that, my dear viewers, I envy how sheltered your lives must have been. Here's a dose of reality for you. The arc of history is long, but it always bends towards nothing ever happens, okay? Nothing ever happens. Of course he's still an admin. Did you really think that the CP League would ever do any self-reflection, would ever actually try to fix anything? I made that video because that's precisely what they won't do, what they're incapable of doing, okay? There's not a single self-reflective bone in their bodies. Where was I? Tangents aside, we can finally get to the topic of today's video. I got a DM a few days ago from a rising Civ YouTuber, some new guy who wants to be the next Herson and make videos about multiplayer Civ 6 or whatever. In a lot of ways, this guy, whose name I will not reveal, actually, you know what? The DMs are already out there, so I guess I will say it. Wide Wang. He reminds me of myself. Not my current self, but myself back when I was first starting out. Back when Civ 6 YouTube was still something that I thought I enjoyed doing. And whenever I think back to what I used to be like back then, I just get so angry, It's like I was in the middle of making the biggest mistake of my life, and I didn't realize it yet. I just want to throttle myself and say, knock it off. Play anything else. Anything but Civ. And I must have channeled this anger into my response. Really, if you think about it, it's because I cared about Wang. It's because I didn't want him to make the same mistakes I made in my life. So when I show you these DMs, it's very important that you keep this context in mind, okay? Because the freaks on X.com don't want you to keep that context in mind. Every time anyone says anything online, Elon Musk's gaggle of sycophants all come together to torture every single word that person said until they can turn them against their speaker, okay? Just the other day, I saw some VTuber, Chibidoki, I think her name was. She made a post about how she gave her father flowers for Men's Day. Isn't that just the sweetest, cutest thing you've ever heard? And you know what happened? Just a few hours later, she was made to apologize for it on X, for giving her father flowers. I mean, can you even believe that, okay? I empathize with Chibidoki there. I really do. I mean, like her, I've got like anxiety and ADHD and like autism, I think. Not the same kind of autism she has, though. I have sort of the savant autism, which is, it's why I'm a genius. But nonetheless, we're both on the spectrum, so I can sort of understand what she's going through. I'm getting off topic. The moral of the story here is that even the most inane of statements, like getting your father flowers, can be used to crucify someone on X. So try to be a little more charitable than those X.com freaks when interpreting my DMs. I'll just put them on screen now. What I wanted to do is just to convince Wang to give up on Civ YouTube. I just wanted what's best for him, what would have been best for me if I were in his shoes. It's like the golden rule, the golden rule. We all know the golden rule, right? Do unto others what you would have them do unto you. Is that still a thing they teach kids in schools these days? The golden rule? I can't imagine they'd stop doing that. Okay. Getting back on topic. Look, when I said your videos are the worst slop on YouTube, that was what we in the business call constructive criticism, okay? And when I said that degenerate subhuman pieces of actually, I don't know. Can I say that on YouTube? Can I even say that? I still want to monetize this video. Let's just say that I said degenerate subhuman pieces of something like you make me sick to my stomach. And it all comes back to the golden rule, right? These are really just the kind of things that I want to say to myself, So is it really abuse? No. Seriously, stop and think about this for a second. Who's the real victim here? Because Wide Wang isn't the one getting blasted on social media by everyone, okay? Nobody's called for his channel to be taken down. Nobody's joined his Discord server to ask him to apologize. I mean, my reputation is on the line here. By comparison, Wang's got no real skin in the game. Nobody's even heard of this guy, okay? It's sort of like how, if you hurt a baby, they're not going to remember it when they're older, right? So really, you can kind of do whatever you want to them, to babies. And new content creators are essentially the same way, is what I'm getting at here. And furthermore, when I was starting out, I reached out to bigger content creators too, okay? So I kind of know what it's like to be Wang here. And honestly, I don't think it's as big of a deal as people are making it out to be, One time, I reached out to Ursa Ryan, the guy who used to make all those daily scribbles on Reddit, and he turned down my offer for a collaboration. In fact, his response might have even been more salacious than mine, okay? And yet, did I post a twit longer leaking the DMs, leaking nude photos that Ursa Ryan may or may not have sent me during the course of discussing a potential collaboration? Of course not, because I am a normal person. I'm a normal person. I understand that when we're discussing business, when we're in business discussion mode, it's implicitly understood that those DMs are private. You don't just leak DMs just because you don't like what the other person said in them, right? If anyone needs to learn anything from this whole debacle, it's Wide Wang, okay? Not me. So, yeah. Now that you know the full story, it's a bit different from what my haters wanted you to believe, isn't it? Isn't it kind of obvious how I was, again, fully justified? Okay. I'll post the PP League final soon, so stay tuned for that. Bye, I guess.